Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Ahmad Kanan, and today I'm going to be giving a draft analysis and initial thoughts on power rankings for the Muslim basketball season. This season was the first season that the Allentown area has done a draft, and having gotten to watch it on Google Teams, I found it to be an awesome experience as a watcher, and I found that it was seemed to build a lot of camaraderie between the players that are participating this season. So first, I want to start off with some of these teams. I will say that I'm impressed that a lot of the teams seem relatively well built. So kudos to the captains for building the teams in a somewhat livable fashion. So let's check out some of these teams. We're going to start with Yassine's team. Yassine's team is built with, at the 5, Uthman Muhammad. At the 2, probably, Ethan Louvi. At the left bench, most likely, Akbar. At starting point guard, maybe, I don't know, Yassine Zohni. Salim Mendoza is sitting right next to Akbar, right on that bench. Dawood is likely going to be starting at the 3. Ghost might be at the 4. No, James will be at the 4. James will be at the 4. Okay, so that's the team. So this team is interesting, to say the least. Just from a quick glance, what I see is that their strengths include shooting. And I guess one thing that might be underrated, I think they have very unselfish big men. So Uthman Muhammad, I wouldn't expect to see him putting up that many shots per game, maybe two shots per game, and that's a game for him, like 2 or 3. James also is a pretty unselfish big man in his own right, and I think that's going to help because their other strength is shooting, obviously, with Yassine recently working on his shot, with Ghost having streaky but relatively good shot, and with Ethan having watched some film on the rookie, I know that he has sometimes a really good shot as well. Dawood, I'm unfamiliar with his game, so I guess he'll just have to show me what he's got. Otherwise, I would say their weaknesses are lack of quality leadership. When I look at this team, I cannot say that there is a single person who I can say is the official leader of this team. I guess you would say it's Yassine as the captain, but on court, Yassine does show a weakness of not being a great on-court leader. So let's look for him to increase that skill as the season goes on, and I really hope that he can prove me wrong in that analysis. And that's going to be important because there is one player on this team who might be liable to lose his head. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Ghost. You might lose your head, and that might cost your team a game or all of them. So look for Ghost to control his temper during the season, and look for somebody to step up on the team as the de facto leader during the season. All right. Their MBR is pretty low, but I think that can be attributed to some players that impact the game in a way that MBR cannot really measure. So I'll be interested to see what they can do this season. Moving forward, let's look at Anwar, the reigning champion player. He's, I guess, finals MVP, you would say. The MBR of his team is pretty medium at 108. His team is interestingly built as well. He's got Amr Sumer, Yusuf Zohni, Ahmed Naeem, Anwar Ahmed, Matt, Waqas, and Junaid. In terms of strengths, I would say their number one strength is Anwar himself. That guy is a machine. You can count on him for 20 to 25 points a game. This guy can really take over a game. He's probably, I would say, the best scorer in the league. So you can definitely expect that he can take over a game when he needs to. Also, they have veteran leadership. This is going to be a strength and a weakness. Their veteran leadership will make sure that they don't lose their heads as the games get close and go on in time, but they're also pretty old. I would say, looking at this, it seems like the youngest player that I know is probably Yusuf Zohni, and that dude is like past mid-20s at this point. So we're talking, these guys are old. A strength that they have is that they are a big team. This team has a lot of players that are large, both in height and diameter. So that's going to be very useful for them. Um, but looking closely, I do see a lack of shooting. Like Anwar is probably their best shooter. And after that, like Waqas has a good mid range. You're hoping for Sumer and Yusuf to really have upticks in their abilities as shooters. So that's going to be an interesting team as well. And that's my analysis of that team and how it's built. Next up, we have Ayan. Ayan has a relatively high MBR team at 110. Their strength is that they have the best point guard in the league. The best point guard in the league is Ayan. He can handle the rock. He can score if he needs to, and he really loves dishing the basketball. And I love watching him play. So this guy is a major strength for that team, and he'll allow their shooting, which is another strength, to really be on display. Now remember, this season is going to be played on the Malv court. The Malv court, if we remember, is tiny. It's like 4 steps from one side to the other side. And really, shooting is super important on this court. Otherwise, if you try to drive, you're basically going 1-on-5 because everyone can take 1 step and just help defense. Right, so shooting is going to be really important on this court. Another strength they have is their youth, but I also am going to put that in as a weakness. I see no veteran leadership on this team. I mean, Amunaji is there. He's a veteran, but we'll see how his leadership can be displayed on the court. They also have, I guess, Salman and Qasim. We'll see how that goes. I'm interested to see how this team meshes together. Keep your eye out on Abdurrahman Raki. He has an MBR of 7, but I would expect that to increase this year as he takes on a bigger role as the 5 for this team. Moving forward, we have Osman Shah's team. So this team, I was a non-believer when I first saw this team. I looked at it and I was like, this team is weirdly built. And I think most of that is because I'm pretty sure the second pick or the first pick, let me look at this team. Oh yeah, the first pick was Saad Qurashi and the second pick was Wase. And then you got Yassine also on this team. So you have 3 pretty predominant egos on this team. It's going to be interesting to see how these guys mesh together. So really, you're going to look at this. I like the balance of this team. I like how you have a point guard in Yassine, you have a great shooter and leader in Wase, hopefully a great leader. And then you have Osman Shah, who's going to be your 5, and he's going to play well there. You also have Saad, who can go in and shoot, and he can score. He's a scorer for this team. So my weakness would be a lack of one specific leader. So look for Wase to take this role on during this year, and you'd hope that he takes on this role and he flourishes in that spot. I would say this team is going to be a contender if Wase can control Saad a little bit. If he can't, then this team might flame out, but we'll see. Moving forward, we have Farhad. Farhad's team is a medium MBR once again at 104. Their strength is that they're very scrappy. There's a lot of players on this team who you don't want to be defended by. Personally, I hate being defended by Drew. I hate being defended by Saad, or even, or definitely AR. I hate being defended by Abdurrahman. Farhad can be a very crafty defender as well, so it's going to be very interesting to see how people can beat this team. I would say one weakness that they have is that they're top heavy offensively. And that's because of the trade that happened during the draft, actually, where Farhad traded Yassine so that he could get a higher second round pick. With that higher second round pick, he got the first pick in the second round. He chose Abdurrahman Hussein. So we can expect to see a little bit of more burden on AR's shoulders as he is basically the second or third option on the team in terms of, I wouldn't say in terms of scoring, but in terms of leadership for sure on this team. So that was a very important and an interesting swing from Farhad. That allowed Yassine's team to be selected more like higher up in the draft, whereas Farhad's team is a little bit more top heavy than maybe you would like. I also am looking at this team and I'm struggling to find any shooters. Like personally, if I'm guarding AR or Umair or Nadim or Omar, I'm inviting them to shoot. Go ahead and shoot. Other than that, Sad Khurshid has a pretty good mid-range shot, and Farhad sometimes can light it up from three. Expect Farhad to be taking more shots this season. I would expect his shot attempts to go up as this team needs more scoring and needs more shooting in general. Ismail, I am not familiar with your game, so you're going to have to show me what you got. All right, and finally, the last team that we want to discuss is Monim's team. Monim's team is very interesting. So this team, I'm not sure what the rationale was while building it. There are no guards. I'm looking at this team: David Barber, Sultan, El, Andy, Mohammed, Saad Afzal, Monim, Abdul Wadud, and Mansour. El is your point guard, and then Monim is your number two. I mean, where are you getting your shooting from? Is Monim your best shooter? We'll see. Abdul Wadud is a rookie, and I'm not sure about his commitment, so we'll see how often he'll be at the games and how much he can provide for this team. I've never seen him play, but he has a lot to prove, I'm sure. This team does have the greatest, I would say, in my opinion, the best steal of the draft. So they got David Barber in maybe the 4th or 5th round, and that there was a huge steal. This guy has an MBR of 19. When David's head is on right, this guy is rebounding. He is shooting. He is playing with confidence. He can make crisp passes. Now, unfortunately, the flip side of that is sometimes David has a bad game. So we're going to see how this team can go and utilize these players to their advantage. It's going to be interesting to see the shots. Again, I would guess similar to Farhad on Farhad's team, Monim's shots are probably going to have to go up, and that's going to be interesting, at least for the smack talk in the group chat. Finally, we are going to do my initial power rankings for the year. I'm interested to see how some of these teams are going to react. So first, I'm going to look at these teams, and I'm going to tell you my power rankings. And my power rankings just mean that this is where I expect the team to be heading into playoffs in terms of standings. So in terms of standings, I do expect that Anwar's team will be number 1 in the association or in the organization. I do think that Anwar's team has a lot of veteran leadership. I think their legs are going to be fine. Even though they're old, they're going to be fine on this tiny Malv court. And I believe that they are the team to beat. Second, we have Ayan. In my opinion, Ayan's team will be the second. And these guys they play with a lot of heart, and they play with attitude, and they're really out there to prove themselves as well. This is what you would consider the youth team, but now a little bit more veteran leadership in there. So it's going to be really interesting to watch these guys play. These guys are really good at playing at Malv because they have a lot of shooters and they play there a lot. Moving forward, I think Yassine's team is going to lock up the 3rd seed. That's going to be mainly because they have built their team as a bunch of shooters and a bunch of unselfish big men. So we'll see how they go. It's going to be interesting to watch these teams play against each other. I also haven't seen the schedule yet, so I don't know which teams are playing who and how many times. So I can't. These power rankings are just my initial thoughts on how things will shake out. Number 4, we have Usman Shah. I think Usman Shah's team is going to be pretty well balanced. Like I said, I would like to put them higher in the power rankings, but we'll see how some of these personalities are going to mesh on this team. And this is the fun of the draft, right? So this is going to be a big part of the game. It's not just how skilled each player is individually, but also how these teams are going to play as a unit. Number 5, and this team had a huge swing during the draft with a trade to get AR and first pick in the 2nd round. Farhad is the 5th team that I select in the power rankings. It's going to be interesting how this team plays. Drew talks a lot in the group chat, so I'm sure there's going to be a target on his head whenever anybody plays against them. And we're going to see how the other players can increase their offensive load and try to cover up for that. Finally, I have Monim's team as the number 6 in the power rankings. I'll say like 5 words about this. How are you gonna, 6 words. How are you gonna guard the zone? 7 words. How are you gonna play against the zone? 8 words. I don't know how many words. How are you gonna play against the zone, Monim? I don't see any shooters. I see barely any guards. You're a big team, but it's going to be playing in Malv, which is a tiny court. Is going to be interesting. So I hope that you guys can prove me wrong, but that's my initial thoughts on this team. Guys, listen, if anybody feels hurt or personally offended by the words that I said, please hit me up so I can leave you on red. Please, please. But also, I hope that you guys are able to prove me wrong if I said anything that is a knock on your ability. And if I said anything good about your ability, please don't fold. I don't want to look like a guy who put too much faith into somebody's ability. That's all, and I'm going to be signing off. This is Ahmad Kanan. Assalamu alaikum.